You're celebrating your new student. It is so exciting, only the next day you get ghosted. What happened? I remember when this happened to me. And, to be honest, it has happened more than once. But I'm thinking of one time in particular. Well, it was a wonderful lesson. The student was singing exactly the kind of musical theater that I love to teach. And he'd even admired the autobiography of Patti LuPone that I had on my bookcase. And I thought, great, this is a perfect match. He signed up for the next lesson. Only guess what? When the next lesson came, he didn't. What a bummer. All right, there are lots of reasons why a student may ghost you, may not show up for a lesson, and some of them are honestly out of your control. Let's say he just realized it wasn't a good fit and wanted somebody else. Okay, no harm, no foul. Maybe he decided that it was too expensive and he just couldn't afford it and he just thought he could, but then he changed his mind. Or maybe, God forbid, he had gotten in a car accident. So there are lots of reasons that someone may decide not to continue with lessons with you that are out of your control. But this particular video is going to be about the reasons that someone might ghost you that are in your control. And honestly, it's going to be a little tough love because sometimes it's hard to take a good look at ourselves and recognize that we have some character flaws or some teaching flaws that we could actually fix. And that's why I'm doing this video, not to be mean, not to do like tough love for tough love's sake, but honestly to help you see your blind spots so that you can actually fix some of the things that are getting in the way of your student retention. Sound good? Hi, I'm Fiona, business coach for performing artists, covering all things mindset, marketing, and monetization. I'm on all the socials. I've got a Facebook community. Check out the links in the description below for more. And I'd love to see you in other places on the internet. All right, student retention is the name of the game, right? But not just student retention. What about student referrals? This is how you get to absolute sustainability in your music business, right? As a teacher or a coach, knowing that you've got students that are so happy that they keep coming back and they refer their friends, their family, their cousins, their neighbors to lessons with you. Wouldn't it be incredible if student referrals and student retention had your studio overflowing to the point where you didn't need social media at all? Well, here's the thing. I'm always going to tell you that a social media presence is going to be helpful and that having that online authority actually increases your referrals. Because where does that student of yours send that referral, right? First, maybe to your website, but also to your social media, and immediately being able to give them a great sense of who you are on your socials is going to help even more. And if you want to learn more about social media, then I've got a free social media masterclass for you. But this video is not about social media. This video is really about self-awareness and recognizing your blind spots as a teacher, as a person even. Because you can, in fact, have a completely full studio without social media if you've got student retention and student referrals. In this video, I aim to help you transform from that teacher getting ghosted to that teacher with the waiting list. Sound good? Let's get to it. All right, let's dive in. Here are 15 reasons you may be getting ghosted by your singing and music students. All right. So honestly, the first one is that you may be talking too much. Now, I had an acting coach, and this was back in my early days. I was in my very early 20s, just beginning my journey as an artist. And here's the thing, I felt kind of awkward about acting. I felt shy, I felt embarrassed, and I would use any excuse I could to not do it. Well, line me up with a teacher who liked to talk a lot. I encouraged him to talk so that I would be left off the hook. Now you, as a teacher, especially if you're just starting out, you need to start identifying what kind of students you're working with and be on guard for somebody like I was at that time who might be encouraging you to talk when actually they're doing that in order to avoid the work. Does that make sense? So this requires self-awareness of yourself because maybe you're talking a lot to hear yourself talk or because you feel anxious, but also awareness of what's going on with your student. and then paying attention and making adjustments. Number 2 is oversharing. This is often that teacher that is talking too much, but it goes beyond talking about acting or singing or music and into personal stuff. Maybe you're oversharing about your relationship, about your pets, about your travel. It could be anything. If you're extroverted, if you enjoy talking, then you may move into that zone of oversharing. This is a common reason why somebody might ghost you. Now, that person ghosting you is not trying to be mean. They just actually want to be nice and not tell you that you're oversharing and talking too much. Makes sense? Number 3 is that you're demonstrating too much. So you see how all 3 of these really have to do with self-awareness and blind spots that you may have about your own way of showing up as a teacher. One time I was doing a master class with a famous opera singer, and I was so excited to be there and to sing for her. But what did she do? She spent my whole time when I was supposed to be singing demonstrating how she thought it should be done. Well, where did that leave me? Not having learned that much, particularly not getting to learn it experientially, and also kind of disappointed to the point where I remember it now, 20 years later, and I'm sharing it with you. So don't do that either. Don't demonstrate so much that your student feels like they're not getting a chance to sing or play the instrument. And then all of these kind of fall under the next one, which is making the lesson more about yourself than about the student. We all are egotistical. It's just a fact of life. But as teachers and coaches, we're here to support the student. I know it shouldn't need to be said, but it does, particularly if you have a blind spot in this area. Just as we're all egotistical, if you went into teaching and coaching, you want to be a great teacher. I'm sure you do. You want to help and you want to serve and you want to support your students. And again, it's just kind of being aware of how are you showing up in lessons? Are you making it more about your personal stories and you demonstrating and you talking? Or are you making it about the student and what the student actually needs in the moment? All right, this one is so important and I want you to stop doing it right now if you are. And that's talking badly about your other students. Basically, you shouldn't be talking about your other students at all in a lesson with a student, okay? So even if you're saying nice things about other students, that's gonna make your student feel insecure or like they're not measuring up to some ideal. And if you're talking negatively about your other students, well, that's definitely gonna hit the trust right in the something. It's gonna crush trust. Because your student is going to know on some level, if you're talking about other students, that you may talk about them as well. So this is really about integrity and it's about character. We don't want to talk about other people behind their backs in general, and definitely not in your studio. Okay? Well, this is an interesting one. Being too flexible with your cancellation policy. Well, Fiona, why is that a thing? It's a thing because if you are not taking your own lessons in your own time seriously, then why should your students? So this might be a student who's a regular student who goes to you because they just figure you don't really care. If your cancellation policy is not strict and you don't enforce it, what's to make them show up for every lesson? They're thinking in the back of their mind that you don't care and you know they're around and you'll come to the next one. So you need to have a cancellation policy in writing that's clear and that you enforce. Are you with me? And coming right out of that, the next one is undercharging. Well, why would undercharging be a reason that people would ghost you? Basically, it's that they don't care having to pay the cancellation fee. So let's say you're charging $25 for a half-hour lesson and your cancellation fee is 24 hours notice and they don't realize that they want to go to the beach until a few hours before the lesson and they just go and they forget to tell you because they don't care about paying that $25. It's maybe, not much more than parking is going to be at the beach, especially if they're in Los Angeles. But do you get what I mean? Basically, charging the right amount will help your students to feel the urgency to show up for the lessons. All right. So of course they want to show up because you have relationship and they want to learn whatever the instrument is. They're there to learn, of course. But if you're undercharging, you're basically making it easier for them to be flaky from time to time. Make sense? So this next one I dealt with personally, and that is being unreliable. I had an incredible opera teacher. This was one of my first singing teachers. She's the one that introduced me to opera and was really important in my development as a singer. Unfortunately, she was also unreliable and flaky. And what that looked like was me showing up to her home that was far from where I lived and her not being there, like literally not being there for a lesson that we both had on our calendars. Now, one time, maybe it was a miscommunication, but this happened multiple times. Not only that, sometimes she was late. Often she was late. Or we were in the middle of a lesson and then there was some distraction that she needed to take care of. Now, here's the thing. This was an incredible teacher and I loved her. I adored her, but I was tempted to ghost. And I didn't because that's not who I am, but I absolutely could understand why somebody might. If you are being flaky and unreliable, then what is to stop the student from being flaky and unreliable with you, right? So you need to set the standard that you want to attract in your students. Again, this is a case where you have had a student for a while and then suddenly they ghost. Well, maybe they're trying to give you a message that ghosting is not a good thing. So you don't ghost either. All right, we agreed? So another reason that you may be losing students is not listening to them in terms of what they want to be doing in the lessons, particularly in terms of what kind of music they want to be singing or playing. This happened to one of my close friends, and I really watched how this played out. He was so clear that he wanted to be singing certain kinds of pop songs, and he wanted to be working on his falsetto. But the teacher kept insisting that he sing sort of more traditional songs in his baritone. Well, that's not a recipe for encouraging his passion, is it? And so in that case, I mean, especially if the student is having conversations with you in lessons saying, hey, I want to sing this kind of rep and you're just not listening, absolutely that student may just decide to stop showing up one day. So really do a great job listening to your students. And if there's a reason that you think that certain rep is not appropriate for that student, talk to them about it, dialogue with them, and see if you can find a compromise, okay? So here's another one that happened to me personally, and that is being discouraged to take risks. So you really want to set your students up in an atmosphere where they feel excited to show up. I had a singing teacher, again, this is different than the opera one, but one that I adored. I studied with her for years and years and years. I loved her, but I definitely felt discouraged to take certain kinds of risks. So again, this is like the repertoire issue. If your student is wanting to audition for the Met, let's say, or something else that they're really not ready for, I understand it may be appropriate to discourage them from that, but instead of discouraging or actively discouraging them from taking risks, be very honest and find something else, find some kind of compromise that will still give them that sense of excitement and help move them towards the goal. Even make a calendar or a schedule for hitting the goal that they want that right now is out of reach. But do not discourage them from doing auditions or competing or taking certain kinds of risks because you don't think that they're ready. If they think they're ready, find a way to talk to them about it and compromise and continue to support them in their passion and in their excitement. Got it? All right, this one is kind of difficult. Again, it may smart, but if the student is not improving, they may ghost. And they may ghost because they're too embarrassed to talk to you about it. They don't want to say, hey, I'm not improving and this isn't working, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So what can you do about that? You need to be really honest and make sure that they are in fact improving, and also that you're setting expectations, because of course the first single lesson, the first month, even the first several months, they may not be improving as quickly as they want to. You need to help them understand the micro transformations that they are having that you can see. You need to help them hear those as well. And you need to get real with yourself if they're not improving. And if they're not improving, then you need to fix that. The next one is don't be a jerk. And I have definitely had coaches and teachers who were jerks. They were too tough. They were mean. their attitude was negative, they were pessimistic, they brought me down, just don't be that person, okay? And if you think that you might have any predisposition in that direction, maybe there was some of that in your upbringing or some of that with your own teachers, be really honest with yourself and ask, is it really necessary? Is it really necessary to do so much tough love? Is it really love, or is it just tough? And see about shifting it a little bit. Are you willing to look at that? But conversely, you also need to make sure you are challenging them. It can't be too easy. You have to be able to find that middle ground between too tough and too easy, too serious and too playful. You don't want it to be too easy because then it gets boring, all right? And also, if you're constantly flattering them and telling them how great they sound, they can see through that too, and they think that you just don't know how to help them. Which I'm afraid brings us to the next one, which is that there really is a mismatch and they are too advanced for you. Especially if you are a newer teacher, you may get a student who thought that you were the right fit based on your marketing, but then they come in and they realize that really they need somebody else with more skills than you have. In my opinion, it takes an incredibly high integrity teacher to recognize when this happens. And I have so much respect for you if you are able to tell a student, maybe it's not a new student, maybe it's someone who's been with you for a while and you've helped them a lot, but you've helped them as much as you can, and now it's time to help them find a new teacher. This is what I pride myself on as a business coach. I absolutely will help my clients when they hit a point where they need something that I can't give them. I absolutely am going to give them referrals to something else. Maybe it's higher level business coaching, or maybe it's an aspect of business coaching that I don't know anything about, right? So you've got to be honest with yourself and with your students about your zone of genius, and then stay in integrity with them. Because if you don't, they will be able to tell, and eventually they will ghost you. All right. Now, if I'm being 100% honest with myself and with you, that student that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I think there's a very good chance that he ghosted because he needed somebody more experienced than I was at that time. And that's hard to admit, but it's okay. And it's stronger to admit it than pretend it was something else. And then also think about tone. You really want to match what your student is bringing. So if they are more serious, you be more serious. If they're more playful, you be more playful. Now, within the boundaries of what feels natural to you, of course. And as a business coach, I'm always encouraging my clients to attract their dream students. And so you may really prefer to work primarily with the most serious type students, or you may really prefer to just work with the ones who want to have fun. And you absolutely can attract those students. And that's what I teach inside of my program, The Profitable Performer Revolution, how to attract your dream students. That being said, if you are just starting out and you're just building your studio, you may be wanting to take on more students of different types, in which case you need to adjust your tone to match where the student is coming so that it's fun for them, whatever kind of student they are. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments, okay? I hope this video was helpful. I really want you to be able to rock your business, to become profitable. And student retention and student referrals are a huge part of that. All it takes is a little bit of self-awareness, a willingness to investigate your character and to actually build your integrity. And these are things that will make you a much better teacher. Another thing that I would encourage you to do is a little bit of market research with your current students. Actually ask them what they're enjoying about the lessons, what they think you do really well, and what they think you might improve. It takes a little bit of courage to ask these questions, but wow, they can really, really help. What you learn from your students when you're willing to put yourself out there and ask these questions is absolutely priceless. Now, if you want more videos like this one, or you have some ideas for some great topics, let me know in the comments. And definitely join me in my free Facebook community and over on Instagram. Watch the free masterclass, lots of other free resources in the description. All right? And if you liked this video, you may want to watch these videos next. Now, as always, go out into the world and let your light shine. You deserve to be heard, and the world deserves to hear you.